Greetings and welcome everyone to today's KODAK webinar on Insight Creative Workflow and Insight Pre-Press Portal. My name is Dave Clark. I'll be your host today. This will be an interactive webinar today. We'll have a Q&A session, a live audience Q&A session at the end of the presentation. And if you have any questions at all, you can type them at any time into the Q&A box. We're interested today in all of your questions, so be sure to get all of them into the Q&A box. We'll try to answer as many of them today as we can. Also, you can use that Q&A box that you'll find on your screen to communicate with me during the webinar if you're having any technical problems. Just let me know what the problem is, what kind of issue you're having, and I'll help you out. And I think that's everything you need to know for today, so let's get started with today's presentation. Our presenter today is Brenda Power, Product Manager of Portals at KODAK, and she'll be leading us through the rest of today's event. So Brenda, over to you.
Hi everybody, good morning and good evening to everyone. Welcome to my Insight Creative Workflow 9.1 and Insight Pre-Press Portal 9.1.1 overview of what we have. As you all know, my name is Brenda Power. I am the Product Manager of Portals. So let's get started. I'm going to cover off Insight Creative Workflow 9.1, Insight Pre-Press Portal 9.1.1, Matchprint Virtual 9.1, and Pressproof 9.1. So, just a reminder, what's that value of ICW for you? Streamline your design projects from ideation creation. We want to reduce your cycle times, and how can we do that is with real-time communication, collaboration, the task-based approvals with easy uploads and downloads, and again, anywhere, anytime. Reduce the cost of shipping of files or creating those physical proofs, because that costs money. Again, we want to catch mistakes early on in the process, not at the end, not when you're ready to print, but as soon as we can. By mitigating some of your business risks and customer assets, we use secure web protocols like SSL. And it's efficiencies with your task dashboards. And we'll go through all of that and give you that updated reminder. But what's in ICW 9.1? It's Windows 2012 R2 support only. So there is no longer support for Windows 2008. We're adding in the ability to do 3D preview. That's through IC3D file formats. Finally, integration with Insight Pre-Press Portal. I know some of you have been waiting a long time for that. We're also now aligning Matchprint Virtual with ICW and IPP, so a single Matchprint Virtual version. We're finally dongleless, which will allow you to have more variety on your virtual choices, whether you're Hyper-V or VOE, and now you have those options moving forward. We've added support for some new file formats, so Microsoft text formats, DOC, DOCX, and also TXT. So you have the ability to bring in any Word doc and annotate it like any other file format you have been dealing with before. As always, there's more custom development involved. I won't get into the bits and pieces. You can follow up on the release notes on that. Again, Pernergy 8.2 or higher. We can't support a lower version, so it means get yourself up to relatively current version of Pernergy 8.2 before you go to ICW 9.1.1. What's in 9.1.1? There's not a lot. And that's really the point of doing our 9.1.1 release, was to make sure we had integration with ICW. So we had to make some changes, so we had a new release. So again, it's Pernergy 8.2, and then there's some bug fixes. All that information is in the release notes, which is currently posted on workflowhelp.kodak.com. All right, Matchprint Virtual. We've made big changes on Matchprint Virtual and Pressproof. Probably one of the biggest ones is 64-bit. So as everybody knows, the next release of Mac OS 10.15 will be 64-bit apps only. We've already done the work, mainly because of Mac Pros. To use the proper memory, we need it to be 64-bit. So we're already ready to go when the new Mac OS comes out. So that's really good news. Again, Matchprint Virtual 9.1 works with both IPP 9 or ICW 9. So again, making lives easier. For customers that have been on Matchprint Virtual 7, really look at the release notes and the documents, because there are some key changes that you haven't been using. There's how we deal with light source. So really take a good solid look at that document, because it's really going to help you moving forward. You shouldn't have any issues dealing with color. Again, if you've made white point changes, come back and you'll have to redo those. So let's get into the fun stuff, really, because that's what we're here for, is looking what new, how does it work, what does it do? So 3D preview. It's really, all we're doing is taking your IC3D files from Creative Edge software, as that's the only 3D format we support at this time. You upload it like any other file. Don't treat it any differently. You don't have to, just treat it like a normal file. When you bring it into Smart Review, we give you that ability to view the 6 sides of that file in a flat mode so you can annotate it. Now, we always recommend you put the initial 2D file that you're going to actually print with on screen to annotate because of nesting and over things like that. This way you still get to see all the overlaps. So again, I brought it up. As you can see, there's the 2D file. It's 6 files. It will display as appropriately in Smart Review. We have a new button that comes up. If it's a 3D format, we know automatically it is a user right. It is a licensed option. And here I'm just using my mouse to rotate the file. Don't worry, we'll get right into that. I'll show you how to use it. It's easy to use. It's very, very, very basic, but it gives you lots of power to ensure things that you really can't see on a flat file, you'll get to see here, and it's completely integrated. So it's reporting everything that you've been doing already. Again, now we just be able to bring that file into the work. Now, previously I have talked about Insight Creative Workflow with Content Check. So that's bringing in the ability to do barcodes, Braille, spell check, and text compare. I'm just reintroducing it because it's been a while, it's going on a year, and just refresh your memories of all some of the key things that we have that really is going to help your workflow. Barcodes is probably one of the biggest ones. But what I like about when we do our content check, this is Braille, for example, it's checking the spelling. I don't read Braille. And I'm sure most people out here don't read Braille very quickly, especially if it's on screen. But this told us really quickly about the spelling mistake. I would never have caught that. I would have caught it in regular English, but not as Braille. So here's some of those big pieces that you can find very quickly before you make that hard copy proof or sample. Now, really, a combination of content check with an ICW compare will make your life so much easier to find issues. And the reason I say that is when we've done a text compare, I'm looking at our known good and a new file. It's catching in problems here. I can now zoom in and really see what that problem is quicker. A standard compare works fabulous, as you all are aware. This just helps you find those problems even faster compared to that master file that you did your text compare with. So again, just adding tools to your toolbox to make life much easier to find problems before you actually go out to any hard copy proofing. All right, so that's what we've talked about. Now I'm gonna actually walk through each of these bits and pieces, show you some of the stuff, give you a little bit of reminder of some of the information that we've had in the past you may not be aware of that we did in 7.5. So I'm just gonna refresh your memories at the same time. So let's jump into an actual demo because it's way more fun doing that. All right, I am going to log on to our external demo server. Now, as you all are aware, if you need access or want access, that you can talk to your sales rep, talk to your TSS, you're welcome to email me, and I can get you set up on our demo server. This way you can play with it before you upgrade. Gives you an opportunity to see what the tools can do to help you along as well. So I am going to go in as a staff user. This brings out that broader, gives me a little bit more tools than just a customer user. Not by much, but just a few extra pieces. So let's log in. I automatically go into my task view because that's what I want to go see. I'm going to filter based on the one that I'm working on, and that's under Creative Workflow. As we know, how my task view gives me a list of everything I need to work on and based on the due date. So I'm just going to go directly into projects and libraries. I'm going to go into my demo. I'm not going to go through creating a project, creating libraries. You guys should be well aware how to do that. Again, for ones that aren't, it's like creating a job. It's a folder. It's a container on how to hold that information. By saving us a little bit of time, because I want to give lots of time for questions and answers, is I've already uploaded a bunch of files. So as you can see, I have some 3D files. This is how you know, one, the name tells you it's IC3, but also this little flap, it is a multi-page file. So as you would see with a PDF, a multi-page PDF, you would see this same icon representing multiple files. We are doing that same thing with regards to an IC3D file. I've got some of what we call our content check files to play with and sort of show different ways when I create a task how you can utilize this and benefit your side of the workflow along with your customers. So let's go in and I've already got a task. So in here, I've got a list of all my tasks, where we're at, what's going on. But before I get into creating a task, asking people to come in and look at these files, just a couple of reminders. Some things that can help you out a lot to ensure things that you need checked are done is what we call a checklist. A checklist is literally that. It's something that you can create a different checklist for different types of users, different type of people. So I, for example, did marketing, design, and legal. Some of them are required. In this case, legal is not. These are the things I want them to check. By making it required, your user, when assigned to this checklist, cannot approve or reject that file until they've completed the checklist. Now, some things are not applicable. They have the ability, and I'll show you this, to turn off, not applicable. Everything is tracked. When you create a report based on a file, if you've done a checklist, it will be in there, and what they finished or what they didn't finish. So this is really helpful when there's very specific people that need to review, especially when you're using a sequence task routing. So it helps keep you in track, but it keeps your customers in track. What do they need to see? What do they need to double check? Especially maybe if it's a third revision and you're like, this has got to be it. Have we checked everything? And it just keeps everybody on track. Piece of paper beside the desk does the exact same thing, but with the checklist embedded into that task for those users, it's also tracked. So you know for sure that that's being accomplished. One other thing that some of our customers are using is attributes. We've had these for a while. It's not new. Just reminding, use them. They're valuable because you can search by them. Any information that's assigned to a file or a task, especially a file, is carried between projects and libraries. So you're not losing that information. So remember, use these. It will help you and your customers depending on what you need to do with them. So it's just that one's just a refresher. All right, let's go in and create our task. So I'm going to select a couple of files here. Pretty random, different varieties. One, I want to show you what different things look like when they're rotating, manipulating within that 3D. The task creation is pretty much the same. Again, if I already have a task and I'm just selecting files, I can use a task template. Saves you oodles of time. You've preset everything you need up. So utilize those tools that are there to make your life easier. But I just want to start from scratch. Give it a due date. It always keeps everything in track. This is when you want this specific task to be completed. So I'm just going to pick a random date. Here's the list of elements. I don't need one as a reference at this point, so I'm just going to leave it as is. I have a list of users. I'm going to filter based on my users based on category. So user groups are done when you create a user. So when you're in the manage access, you can create user groups and assign users to those groups. It's similar to user groups, but you can have different people in a user group for different components. What this does is reduces that list, which is great. And it gives me, I can also assign that task that goes with that user group. Sort of working together. So I'm just going to go all for now because it's easier to select me. We've talked about sequencing before. If you need a group of users to look at this file first and then another group second, this is where you want to do it. So I can say I'm in user group 1 and my due date is actually tomorrow. Mind you, I can have these other 2 people that are in group 2 and with a due date of Friday. And this person is, okay, I will undo that and go here. This person is 3 and their due date is the 16th. And I can go ahead and just update, and now we'll get all that information. So we'll go create. And we'll go into my task view, and here's the task that I just created. So here's the files. Let's go into Smart Review. You guys know Smart Review, it's nothing new. Here's my can. I can go in, I can zoom in, I can take a look at it. Again, it's just one flat file, so this is my view. I can open up the component and I can see the different sides of this can. So I'm going to start with going into 3D preview. So here's my icon, select it, it's loading. All I'm doing is using my mouse. So I can rotate the image around, I can take a look at it. Because I've done lighting within Creative Edge, I can actually see that different lighting depending on how I rotate this can. I'm going around, and here I notice that this crossover isn't really that good. It's a little off. So it's something I need to fix. Could I have seen that with a flat file, just with an Illustrator file? Maybe, maybe not, depending on who you are. So I'm going to go to the back of my can in my flat file. There it is. I'm going to go 1 to 1, and now I'm going to make an annotation. And what you would normally do, please fix. So I'm just doing annotations like I would on any other file I would have had used in Creative Workflow before. So this is nothing new. Everything's tracked exactly the same way. So I'm not really changing your workflow. I'm enhancing what you're already doing by giving you that capability of looking at that 3D file and being able to annotate exactly where you're having issues. So we talked about the checklist. Here's my checklist. I actually maybe don't have any barcode, so I'm going to say it's not applicable. And I've already checked the ingredients and I've checked my spelling. So I can say I've done my checklist component. Again, depending on where you want to do that. And because I've made an annotation and I've set up my customer, I'm not allowed to approve when there's an annotation on the file. I would have to go in and just reject this. So again, you're not changing what you're doing when you're using 3D, viewing your images in 3D. We're enhancing what you have. I could go back and here's the potato chips. Show you a couple of different ones because some of them are actually quite different. This one actually has a shadow. So if you're wondering if somebody's looking at it on a certain angle, what kind of shadow is being displayed. So giving you that ability to rotate the item around to what your needs are. So here's a container. It's shrink wrap, obviously beer cans. And you're like, okay, you get to the idea of you get to see the show through. What does the bottom of this look like? You would never see that after. You would have to wait till it's packaged or a sample's been made to get that same feeling of the shrink wrap seeing through. Here I get that advanced look without actually creating a physical file. So that's just some of those key things that we're doing with 3D Preview. Again, it's our first release. So we know we're going to get lots more questions and features, and please give us those because we want to know how you're using it so we can make it suit your workflow better. What's missing if we could do this? Now, we are going to eventually look at other 3D formats, but we're going to stick with IC3D for now. So think about getting Creative Edge if you don't already have it to utilize this. Again, you have access to our servers. You're free to upload IC3D files. So that's 3D in a nutshell. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to talk about our content check. Just a bit of a reminder. Not everybody has seen it, depending if you made our last webinar last year or not. But I'm just going to walk through it anyways, because it's always a good little reminder. I'm just going to use our standard file. I'm going to just select the 2 and I'm going to go in and create a task. Again, if I already had a task, I could do it from an auto task. Due date, I'm not going to really worry about that right now. Concept, you get. Here's a big thing. When you're picking your element for when you want to do content check and you are going to compare against something else, remember to put it in as your reference element. All right, don't forget to do that. Now, your reference element does not have to exist in the same project or the same folder. It can actually come from a different task. So you could have this file already existing because you've been doing other checks. You can grab it from any location that you need. With regards to users, you must ensure that you click content proofer. It is a user right, so they have to have that capability to see all that content check. So you do want to restrict, if people don't need to look and see the annotations with regards to your braille or your barcode checking, don't give them the user right. Restrict that to who really needs it and when. User groups works the exact same way as users. We've kept all the same functionality across the board because we have I know a lot of you guys are using user groups, so we want to make sure that you maintain that. We can do an auto check. So I'm actually not going to. I'm going to show you how you can do this manually, but I already have a task created that's already done the auto check for you. And the pros and cons, because there is definitely some big pros of doing this automatically. You check everything, walk away when it's time to come back in and look at the file. Everything you need to check has already been completed. So it is very valuable. This was the task referencing I was talking about. Remember, I'm in as a customer user, as a staff user. I can go to any customer in this case to find where that reference task is. So this saves you from doing duplications. And that's really, I think, important, that you don't want to keep duplicating files because you're reusing them. Let's utilize ones that already exist in the system in that location that you want to reference. So again, if it's in the project, you use this component. If it's not already part of your project, you can go and get it from a different project or task. Works the exact same way. Just going to go ahead and create. So this is a blank slate. So when I go into Smart Review, nothing's been checked, nothing's been looked at. But what I am going to do, because this one's done, I did this automatically. It is the same file I just set up. So I'm going to look at this one first. This is what it did automatically. I just set the auto check. I said, go and check everything. I come into Smart Review and it's done. Now, I've been in here before, deleted a few things. Couple of things to think about. Because spell check, URLs, email addresses, that kind of information doesn't exist in standard dictionaries. So I always recommend that you go into the dictionary of the tool and add those components. Add your URLs, add your email addresses, such as down here. I've already added them. This is why it wasn't checked. It's because it is down here. It's already in my dictionary. Saves you from getting what we would call your false positives. So that's automatically done. So let's go to the one that is, I have to do this manually. And you can see it's a clean slate. Because I have the user right, I go into content check. And I'm going to do one piece at a time. Let's say the only thing I really need to look at is a barcode. So I'm just going to marquee around my two barcodes and click generate. So in the background, it's looking, it's analyzing, it's trying to understand what these two barcodes are doing. What are they? Are they accurate or inaccurate? And that's really what you're checking here. You don't have a barcode scanner here to do that double check, but here I can now mouse over and I can read that information. I can determine, is it right? Is it wrong? Is it what you were expecting? Is this reading the right information? If it is right, you just go under the status and validate it. It's a barcode's good, and I can say done and move forward. And this one should be identical if they are the correct barcodes. Again, I set that status. You need to set the status to say it's okay or not okay before you can move forward to approve or reject a file. We don't consider these annotations per se, except for when you're doing the validation. If I said valid error, then it would be considered a normal annotation in the world of Smart Review. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to do my Braille. Maybe this is not English. You still have the variety of picking a language that this should be in. This is supposed to be French. This is a French label. Pick French. English is my default. So, and I know this is in English. So I'm going to go ahead and marquee this up. And I'll just do that small area and generate. So again, the advantage of disadvantage of doing this manually, it's one, I can do all of it at the same time, and I can then leave out my tag. There's going to be a lot of information in these taglines that aren't valid. They're just tags for your information. So do you really want to do a content check? Yes, no, that really becomes your decision. I have small files that barely has a tagline. I do it automatically. Save yourself some time, get it done, get it out of the way. It's just a process that can be done in the background. So again, I can go through all of this and go back and forth. As you can see, same as what I showed you on that PowerPoint earlier, is this information. It's the error. So again, things that you need to look and pick up on. So compare is a valuable tool. I'm going to go back to our other one that was already done. And as you can see, all these marks up. So let's go into compare and show you the value behind it. Oh, that. I think, there we go. So I'm going to view this in my left. So my reference file is in the middle. My initial file is on my left-hand side. So I get to see all the, it highlights out very quickly the error or the misspellings. I can see it really well over here. So I'm going to zoom in. And since I know the area I'm going to look at because it's highlighted because of content check, I can now see very quickly what's going on. This saves me from scrolling and moving through the file in a fine-tooth comb. This makes it laid out a lot faster. So as we can see, oh, that is a real problem because it should be a capital, not lowercase. So if something happened with fonts. Yeah, taking 23 of this would be an issue. So look at those little things, as simple as a dash, as simple as a period in some places can cause problems. So this will help you and your customers identify issues faster. And really, that is the key, is finding mistakes before you go any farther. As long as it's in digital mode, it's fine. All right, and that's really that key piece here, is you get to look at what you need to. So that's the compare mode. Now, I could, if I really wanted to, I could get rid of my comparison view. If I didn't want to see that flashing, I just want to do a visual quick compare between the two. I can do that. I'm not required to have that panel. If I want to look at it this way, you can. It's not as obvious, but some people need to look at that. Or if you're looking at a front and back and doing a compare of something else, you can do that as well. So I'm going to just go back to single page mode. So really that is our content check component and how it can work with our existing tools. So that's something to keep aware of. As we know, you can have your attributes visible here about that file and also stuff about that checklist. There is no checklist for this file specifically. So I'm going to leave some, those are probably our two biggest things. Like I said, I'm not going to walk through Match Print Virtual. What you will find that's new is this icon here. This will indicate if there's a color target. As you have today with Creative Workflow, you can go in and pick a desired color target if you need to. This will indicate that I haven't calibrated. I'm on a laptop, which is not supported. But it's, again, it's Safari only. Those recommendations haven't changed. What you do have that's different now with Match Print Virtual is a wider breadth of monitors. We've done a lot of work to sort of let you as the customer pick what monitors you want. Now, we do test specific monitors from NEC and ISO, but there's lots of other vendors out there as long as they meet the minimum requirement. Again, we do formal testing with our two key vendors, and they're available worldwide, so it makes it easier for you. And we also generally know when new monitors are coming out to keep you also abreast as monitors get discontinued. So we use them to really keep us up to speed. But HP, BenQ, there's so many different types out there. It all depends on what your needs are. And we've definitely brought the lower end monitors into play from both NEC and ISO because we know how price conscious customers are. You also can use the i1 Display 3. Key point here is please, if you want an i1 Display 3, do not order it, go onto the X-Rite site directly. We have a link. with our release notes and the download of MatchPrint Virtual to where you can purchase the i1 Display 3. Please use that link. They are not the same device that if you went directly to X-Rite's site and browsed and looked for the device. They look the same, but they are not the same. So I really just wanted to enforce that. We've had a few customers over the last couple of years when we supported both the i1 Pro 2 and the i1 Display 3. They went directly to X-Rite versus going to the special link that we provide. There's not a link for Europe yet. That is coming, but there is the contact information there if you do want to order one of those devices specifically to deal with MatchPrint Virtual. The price point is like our old devices. It's much lower, more cost effective than an i1 Pro 2. So I just wanted to bring up that because it is different, different mechanisms of what we're doing here. Again, it gives you all the information you need to know. It still does in our separations panel. That hasn't changed, but it gives us information on both sides of the fence when you're getting into color. So that is Smart Review. There's actually not going to be anything for me to show you with regards to IPP and ICW, but I am going to show you with the new user interface how you get connected to your, projects and libraries on an integrated site. Because I think that's important for you guys to know, especially those customers that do have Insight, Prenergy, and Creative Workflow. Sort of how do I get from A to B? How does it look? Before I do that, one quick thing to let you know. Okay, so here, same look and feel about seeing whether revisions. So when you go and select that individual file, it will show you if you have any revisions or this is a previous version. I can go in here and look at anything I need to, as we've been able to do before. It will indicate how many. That's my user defined folder. I have 0. This is not a revision in the case I selected. So we do list, as we always have, if it's a revision. So number of revisions, it says 1. As you can see, it could be 5. We are no longer counting the last upload as a revision because it's not. So if I click on here, I only have 1 file because this is the previous file. It's not the current. This is just the previous file. It is what we're calling a true revision. So when you see this, this could be anywhere from 1 to X. If it's a single file, such as this file, it will say 0 because there's no revision. It is the only file in play. So that is some of the changes that we did between 7 and 9 is the understanding of what a revision really is. If we were doing versions, that would be a different story, but these are actual revisions. Customers have uploaded, they're a difference, they've kept the same name. So just as an awareness of how that has changed, if you're getting a little confusion, if you ever got in there, that's what we've gone ahead and changed. So I'm going to log out. I'm going to go to my other server that is completely integrated. It is my internal server. Now, our external demo server for customers that are integrated, that is up and running. It is fully integrated. So what I'm showing you here is also accessible there. So if you are a customer that has Prepress Portal, Creative Workflow, and Prenergy and want to have a test, go at it as an integrated system, let me know that as well. So when you do contact your sales or your TSS or myself, please indicate what you're looking for, if you want integrated or standalone, because we have both completely available to you as our customers. So I'm going to log in as a staff user again. As you notice, the view project in the library is grayed out. You must select a customer first. So I'll just go into my specific customer. This becomes available and allows me now to go to Creative Workflow. It works exactly the same way as it has previously on your integrated systems. As you can see, if I need it to manage users, I need to go back into IPP and manage my users there. What does that look like? I'll go home. I'll go into users. I will select my specific customer again. And now I can go into manage projects and libraries. Same user interface that you're used to, and we're getting it pretty much in the exact same way. So as users that have not upgraded to 9, there's part of the new user interface that you will get to see and now we're integrated with ICW. So you're not losing what you've seen in ICW. It's pretty much the same user interface. We are looking at doing some more changes, one that makes it more viable going forward long-term as well. So again, you don't do the changes here based on users. You actually go back into the user interface of IPP when you're coming from Creative Workflow. So that's really your little bit of a change. It'll get a little bit getting used to, but conceptually it is exactly the same as what you've been doing before. So we'll go back in. Again, I still have my same core functionality of seeing my tasks, manage tasks, and going into projects and libraries. At this point, everything is identical. You're not going to see anything different. I can go in, do my basic attributes, my checklist. If I click Manage Customer Access, it will take me back to the pre-press portal user list. But everything that you could do before, it's still here and then some. We've actually opened up customer edits a lot quicker. So that is pretty much everything that we have with regards to Insight Pre-Press Portal and Insight Creative Workflow 9.1. There's a lot here. It's also understanding to figure out what your workflow is, what you need to utilize the tools. And that's really putting those tools in the toolbox. So as a reminder, it's Windows 2012, so you will have to reach out to your sales or TSSs to plan that rehost over from your existing version to the new version, depending if you've got hardware or virtual environments. Are you ready to go from hardware to virtual? What are your needs are? And really talk to them and get the help that you need. If you're not getting what you need, drop me a line. I'll be glad to help you out. The Response Center is great to help out with some of those questions as well. So think about that. Please, if you do have questions, start typing them into the Q&A box. That way we get to start asking the questions as we're going on, as we go forward. So my first question I see is, would like to know when the Finder view of ICW will be available. Today, it's impossible to easily find a file on the system. We're looking at bringing in list view. It's a request I've been getting a lot more. I think once people have IPP and saw that. So the plan, I absolutely do not have timing on this. So just as aware, is we're going to bring in means that to start with is being able to do thumbnail view or list view. So if you, even when you do a search, if you've gone list view, then your search will also give you a list view. That's the starting point. We know customers want to filter on last uploaded, due dates, names, stuff like that. That's not going to be our first release of being able to do the list view. One, because you can search based on attributes, so it will narrow that list down as you need to. So, excuse me, be aware. That's what we're going to try to do in our next release. So I'm starting to try to understand the requirements, the effort behind that. So it's one of the things we are looking at, because I've been getting more and more requests from our customers, especially as they're more using it, more files. It's hard to find them across the board. So that is one of those issues that we are trying to look at and see how we can do it. Initially, when we were going to be doing our new user interface, that was all part of it. That got dropped. So now we're trying to figure out how we can best do it within this interface as well for you as customers and your customers. If text is vectorized corrector is working, I'm not sure what that question means. So maybe you can explain a little bit more in the Q&A, or I can always take it offline. Another question, just to double check, will Creative Edge file support an IPP standalone? Not at this time. I am, as that came up quite a bit. As soon as I brought 3D into Creative Workflow, when is it for IPP? I'm working on it. We have to remember all files that go into IPP go through Printergy for a refine. So we're trying to determine how we can add IC3D files without going through Printergy, and then also to have that 3D preview component. So it's very different. We have to be careful because Pernergy doesn't accept these formats, and we don't want it refined either. We want to keep it in its native format like we are in Creative Workflow. So just some of the things we have to work through. It's not as cut and dry as I'm hoping, but it is viable. When will emojis be available for annotations? No, that's a lot harder to do than people think. We've had lots of people ask for when can we add a file to an annotation, when we can. We're not going down that path, unfortunately. Sorry about that. But I think I forgot to remind or mention to everybody about one of the other components that we do have within, keep forgetting where I am. Let's go into this file, is the ability to comment on another person's comment. So it's not task routing, it's the ability, I've made a comment, just like a chat room. Even though we have the chat and the collaboration here, which is very different, it's the ability to make an annotation. So I'll make one here. But then somebody else can come into this file at the bottom and can come in here and add to my comment. And you can continue that chatting back and forth. So I can comment on a comment. So it won't necessarily be emojis, but this gets you close. And I can click done. And then when I go into that annotation, it would tell me there's one extra annotation made to this. I can select on that. I can delete, I can add. I can also set that status of the annotation as well. So no, we don't have emojis. No idea. That's the problem is loading them up. Different formats from different countries all have different requirements. So not anytime soon. Maybe when we move down the road somewhere, it becomes an easier component to do. We'll look at that. So it is 15 minutes before we're up. There's ample time. If you guys have questions, please, let's get them answered. Curiosity, even if you're unsure about something or you put in the questions. I'm not letting anybody know who's each other. So, oh, there's a few more. You will explain how to use the MVP targets profiles. Our goal is to upload RGB images, Adobe or sRGB, and preview it with an MVP calibrated system that are RGB or with a CMYK conversion. We ran into a bit of a hiccup recently with RGB, but so I'll go into here and we have our managed color targets. We supply an RGB file. You only can have one RGB profile in the system at a time. So if you have RGB images and upload, you can assign an RGB profile. Now it doesn't have to be the one we ship. You can create your own, but it will replace this existing one. So again, you can only have one RGB file within Smart Review. Now, where we run into an issue going forward, it's not necessarily issue, it's just an awareness, is our light source. You can only have, you can't pick your light source for GTI or just normal like light booth. You have to use D50. And that's pretty much a standard, actually. Surprisingly enough, more and more of our customers who are either using Pressbooth or Matchprint Virtual on the pre-press portal side have actually reverted down to doing D50 across the board, because they seem to have better control in the different environments that they're using it between Pressroom and Photoshop and Smart Review. So some of our customers have reverted sort of that more neutral color to balance it out. So that's where with Adobe RGB that can help on that case. The question is, can I add a new language for spell check? A lot of our customers transform the fonts to vector in Illustrator. So will spell check work? You can add any words you want to any dictionary. So if you want, let's say you're using a German dictionary and you want to put not necessarily German words, but words that are used consistently, you can add that. Can you add a whole language? There's pretty much every language is in the dictionaries for spell check. So it's just adding the words that you want versus anything else. So I'll go back into Smart Review and give you that list in the dictionary. It's quite long. It's quite extensive. The only languages that are an issue at this time is because in Chinese, Japanese, and Korean, it's not really words, it's phrases. So it's a little bit different on that sense. Oh, that's not a, I'll go back to here because I know I'm good. So give it a second to refresh and come up. Some things, oh, I picked the wrong file. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to just quickly create. Wait 2 seconds. Something has gone wrong on me. Welcome to my testing environment. All right, I'll just go back to, again, you control the dictionaries. Ultimately, you own the dictionaries on the system. You control it. You can determine what words are in each dictionary. Ultimately, we give you the basics. You ultimately go in and can put any words you want. And that's really, I think, the value of that is if I go into my spell check dictionary, there's the list is pretty long. Now, if there's not a language here that you need, let me know, because we can easily talk to our vendor about adding languages or how we can add a dictionary that is missing. So most of the languages that they've been dealing with are there, but we can easily get one added. It's not an issue. If it's just words, add it to the existing dictionary. We do have the process and our documentation on how to add words. And that's very, very helpful. All right. I think someone was asking if the text is converted to art, pass, will the spell check recognize it? It's going to more recognize the compare component, because it does. I've had ones where the logos are art and it's words, but it's outlined, and it can check to the original file. So if you're doing a compare and you've done that same work and it's identical, then yes. But again, if it's not text, it's my understanding, no, it wouldn't check it the same way, because it's not really text anymore, it's an outline. So that's where some of the differences come into play. So really having that original file to compare against is helpful. So yeah, so it's how much, if a lot of it getting done outline, I get when it's on an arc, but yeah, you sort of lost that font capability or word capability. But let me do a double check and I'll confirm with that on you. When the letters have been converted to outline, they are no longer characters, they are vectors, so they'll lose the vector graphics, be spell checked. And I think I just answered that question. Again, if you're comparing, at least you will have that information. I will double check. I did have a file that was more artwork. Let me just take a look. So as you can see, that's probably not outlined. I thought it might be, but I'm pretty sure it's not. So I'll do an extra check on that. Again, because in reality, it is no longer considered a font. It is a logo per se, or it's outlined. So you sort of lost that capability. I haven't had any artwork that was outlined, but it's not that hard for me to get that sorted out and double check, and I can get back to everybody on the group. Because I do get your questions, so these will be saved and forwarded to me, so I'll know exactly who I need to reach out and back to on all these questions. So these won't get lost. They will be tracked. I will get these so I can follow up appropriately with each and every one of you who have asked questions that I didn't answer to completely. And the fact that a few of you are asking the same question, I'll make sure I do a bit more of a bigger response. I may actually put the response on the GUA forum to help. That way it spreads out a little faster to everybody as well, so everybody can get that correct information. Anybody have any more curiosities, questions? Remember, if you do want access, reach out to your sales or to me. I have no problem setting you up. What I will need is obviously your name, email address, and the company, because I will set you up as customer users. One, because it's an external facing server. I want to make sure you guys have your own files that you want to upload, but keep private to yourselves and not to anybody else. Great questions. I'm looking forward to seeing more questions over the next little while. And for our European customers, I will hopefully see you in end of October at our GUA. Hopefully some of you guys will come and ask more questions and see where we're at. And hopefully I'll have some other answers to some of the questions you've already given me. I'll give everybody a couple of more. Oh, there we go. I knew there'd be some more questions. I think someone's asking, yeah, again, yep, that's everybody. Like I said, there's about 4 of you that have asked about the vector. So I will get back to you as soon as I can on those questions. So I think if nobody else has any more questions at this moment, like I said, you're never completely cut off. Please feel free to reach out. And thank you very much for joining. I hope you found this informative. Hopefully it gives you some ideas of what you need to do moving forward, the 3D preview and the content check side. And all the other tools that are in there. I want to highlight a few more because I know not everybody uses all the tools. So trying to reach out and give you that extra little bit to keep you guys going. So I think, Dave, unless there's more questions that you're getting in another way, this is all that I have from the Q&A box right now. And if that's the case, I think we can be completed for the day.
I think that's all we have for now. Brenda, thank you very much to you. And before we wrap up, just a few final notes. Today's webinar was recorded, and you'll be receiving an email with a link to access that recording if you'd like to re-review it when it's available. So check your email inboxes for that. And that email you receive will also include a link to a brief survey that we hope you'll take. We'd really like to know your thoughts concerning today's webinar. So be sure to take a couple of moments to complete that survey if you can. Thanks so much for being with us today. That does conclude today's webinar. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.